All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to officially start this evening's presentation. My name is Jimmy Newson. I will be helping you navigate through the remote platform if this is your first time. If you've been on the platform before, welcome back. Before we get started and I give like a breakdown for all the newbies here about the platform itself, I'd like to introduce our president, Gary Alzalone, and please, Gary, say a few words.
I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to another, this is actually a continuation of our first panel discussion regarding business development, how it's gauged as success from perspective of people doing it, and now from the perspective of the folks that hire us. I want to first of all thank a very active board pushing in every direction to make this organization a success. A golf outing coming up, and that's almost have a tremendous amount of content from our education committee. We have communications committee, a membership committee that's very active. We have a BD Gives committee for charity, which has raised to date $10,000 for different charities. One was Children of Promise. The other is Unstoppable Foundation. We have a sponsorship and a super active programs committee as well. So I thank all of the board and all of the participation from people on the committees. And with that, we are always looking for more talent and more positive energy. So if you do want to get involved, I can guarantee you it's going to be a great experience. At least that's what everyone is telling me up till now, that they're really enjoying their with this organization. And I think that's a good endorsement. So one last thing I will say is that the mission of the organization is that we are a community of people that do business development in every aspect of it. And while there might be overlap in marketing and sales and other components, the skill set for business development is what we're looking to help to promote, and do that through sharing best practices and creating this community. So with that, I would like to pass this back to Jimmy, who will introduce our amazing moderator, Guy Cleveland. And back to you, Jimmy.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Great words of wisdom there, and we're happy to have you as our president. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I bring on our moderator and our incredible guest, just a couple things about Remo. If you haven't been on the platform, right now we are in presentation mode, which acts as almost like a stage, and everyone is kind of in the audience listening. To the right, you're going to see the ability to chat with each other. You can see the participants, some of you can, and then there's a Q&A section. So just a couple of housekeeping rules. You can chat with everyone, chat privately. If you have a question specifically for the panelists, please put that in the Q&A section, because we can upvote those questions to get the ones that everyone that, get the most important questions asked first. There is a Q&A section at the end of the panel talk. But Guy will give you more info on how you should be interacting with him and the panelists. In regards to, once we're done, we're going to move back over into what we call conversation mode, where you can move from table to table. All you have to do is double click on the table and you can move to the table. If you can't see some of the floor plan, you just have to zoom out with your mouse, and then you'll be able to see the entire floor plan and move around freely. Please move around and interact. Don't stay at a single table for too long, so people get a chance to meet each other. This is definitely about networking, and keep your cameras and your mics on then, or else you will be invisible to be seen. So leverage video, leverage audio, and ladies and gentlemen, please put your clickers together and help me welcome Mr. Guy Cleveland.
Okay, first faux pas. Let me turn my mic on tonight. Jimmy, thank you for the introduction. Yes, if all the panelists would come up and turn their mics and cameras on, Again, my name is Guy Cleveland. I am principal at Razor Consulting, and we're an outsourced business development company. I'm also a co-founder and the vice president of IBDP, which is the organization that is putting on this event tonight. The event's on fire, and we gained a lot of traction since we started at the first of the year, even through all the COVID activity. So if you're interested, Gail Frank's on here. You might reach out to her about membership. So anyway, with that being said, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I know it's beautiful outside right now, and so we're fortunate to have the large house that we do today. There is a lot of work that goes into this. So just real quick, I want to thank all the committees, education, program, communications for helping us coordinate this and outreach to everyone. Tonight, we're super excited to have this esteemed panel. As Gary mentioned, back in January, we had another panel of professional business development folks. And tonight are the people that hire those folks. And so one of the things that we want to touch on first is really the definition of business development and how we measure success. But before I do that, let's introduce the panel. If the panelists would just talk maybe 1 minute, just give a brief introduction to yourselves, that'd be appreciated. Berto, you want to kick it off?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. My name is Luis Alberto Antuñano Medina, or Berto for short. I am the Vice President of Business Development for Newmark Title Services. We do higher residential and commercial title insurance services and escrow for any type of commercial transaction anywhere in the country.
Thank you, Berto. Clark.
Thanks, Guy, for having me, and Gary and Jimmy for helping set this up. I am Clark Lindsay. I'm the CEO of Pacific Program Management. We are a national PM firm and program management firm that offers capital project management, workspace consulting, and transition relocation management. We have an office in New York led by Sandra Yencho, and in DC led by Jim Cisneros, and then obviously offices on the West Coast because our headquarters is in Seattle. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, glad you're here, Clark. Rhonda, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Rhonda Bailey. I am the Vice President of Business Development out of the Philadelphia office for Skanska USA. And I'm really happy to be here today. And business development is a topic that is near and dear to my heart.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda. Chris Rizzo.
Hi, Guy. Thanks. My name is Chris Rizzo. I'm a partner at the law firm of Carter, Ledyard and Milburn, which is a law firm located on Wall Street in New York, where we've been for about 160 years. I haven't been there, but the firm has been here. And we are a full-service law firm, but my area of expertise is environmental law and land use law. And as the director of that group, business development is something I think about 51% of my time.
Excellent. So let's just dive in. And I think let's get this show on the road with the definition of business development, how you define it, and how does it differ from sales and marketing? I know Rhonda and I were just having a conversation about this a minute ago. And at what point does business development touch sales and marketing? Rhonda, you want to kick it off?
Sure, absolutely. I've fought this battle a lot in my career that I'm not sales. I feel like I want to wear a sign that I am not sales, I am business development. And business development is about planting seeds, building relationships, watering those seeds. There is an RFP walking through the door tomorrow, request for proposal. There isn't a job walking through, it takes time. It's about building lasting relationships. It's about doing what you say you're going to do and your company that you're representing doing what they say they're going to do. It's about trust and honesty. And it really is, it's building relationships and taking those relationships and turning them into opportunities for the clients that you represent. It is not, I got a widget, it's $99, it's really great, it's going to be shiny. You need to have those traits. You need to have those traits to have the sales, but business development is truly, it is building relationships for your clients that you represent to position them best to find new work for their company.
Very well said. Clark, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I think Rhonda put it well. It is about the relationship, and when I started this business, it would all kind of blur together. Sales, business development, marketing, it was one big ball. But what I've realized is that the sale really is that end. You've got to get the sale done, but all that work up until that point of developing that relationship built on trust, the performance, it takes time. And sometimes it goes fast, sometimes it goes long. But it is about what value you and the client can share with each other. And that is about building long-term relationships. And so business development is the largest portion, and it's really a responsibility of everybody in the firm that represents you as an individual, but also represents your clients and what their interests are.
Right. Very well said. Berto, you want to touch on that?
Happy to, of course. So I was thinking about this, and business development, for me, maybe specifically in my industry, is because any industry is the art of being creative, right? And finding ways to capture business through developing a brand and nurturing these relationships. There's, once again, specifically in my industry of title insurance, there's no signing on the dotted line. Of course, when you are acquiring or selling a property, yes, you do sign a bunch of documents when you're buying or selling a property, but that's not when we get the deal, right? That's when we insure the policy. We get the deal way, way, way before, during the beginning of the transaction, and those deals are coming in because we're doing, I believe, an excellent job of branding ourselves as a company that people trust, can get the job done. And of course, these deals have come in from us nurturing relationships that can take sometimes a week if we're lucky. But most of the relationships that I have taken 6 months, a year, 2 years, where I continue to touch base and keep touch with someone, and then then we finally see a transaction from it.
Good, very well said. And I'd like to bring Chris up now to talk a little bit. He's going to bring a little different perspective because his firm doesn't actually hire business development folks, but all the principals are required to bring the business in. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to my good friend, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, law firms operate a little bit differently from a business development perspective, in the sense that Guy is correct. Every attorney, and particularly every partner or owner, is expected to be a business development professional. We're expected to be out there developing relationships. Rhonda is absolutely correct. It's all about relationships. Developing relationships that will produce business, or relationships that might help us service our other clients, if not bringing in business, that are sympathetic to what we're doing. So we are always hiring business development professionals, in the sense that every time we hire an attorney, that person needs to be savvy about business development. And it really is a long game. If I think about the clients I'm currently working with, and how they came to me, most of them probably came to me from a relationship that was more than 5 years old, maybe even more than 10 years old. And there's actually one that just came in from a relationship that's about 20 years old. So it really is a long relationship game. And, it's about cultivating those relationships in an authentic and genuine way. I think a salesy pitch for an attorney, and probably for most of us here on this program, a salesy pitch is toxic. That really turns people off in professional settings. So it's really about nurturing authentic relationships with people that you connect with, that hopefully produce business over time. And, as Guy said, it really, in a law firm, it's all of us. We're all expected to be in this game.
Well, thanks, Chris, for that perspective. It's interesting because some of the panelists and I were talking earlier before the program kicked off, and what happens with Gary's my business partner at Fraser Consulting. So we have a lot of people, prospective clients, that talk to us and say, well, how much business can you close in 3 months? And so we automatically think, I think you need a salesperson. And so to me, that's the difference. There's transactional and there's relationship building. Ours is more long-term. So with that being said, when you do have a business development person on board, how do you measure their success? I'm sorry, what do you look for in a perfect business development person? Personality, strengths, skills, traits. Chris, you want to kick that off?
Sure. I mean, every time we're interviewing an attorney, we're looking for somebody that has good social skills. That doesn't always happen. We've got a few outliers here at my firm that somehow manage to develop connections and relationships that produce business. But usually we're looking for people that can really socialize, talk, connect, and in addition to having professional expertise. Because as a lawyer, you really do have to be out there developing business at the same time as you're providing competent services to your client. Our clients expect the people who are pitching business to them or trying to bring them in as clients to be engaged in the work that they actually bring to the firm. So we need people that can do both, that are competent as lawyers and competent also in terms of business development, or at least not scaring away clients.
Good. And Clark, what does a success look like for your business development professional?
It's a good question. It is a long-term play. Of course, we have to sell to achieve our yearly financial objectives, but really a business development professional who understands our vision as a company, understands what our priorities are, really aligns with that, has a high level of emotional intelligence to go out and weave through the different clients and personalities, and then making sure that we're not just going after everybody. We're going after people and building relationships, targeted relationships that make sense for the health of the company. And therefore the health of the team and a better product for the clients. And so it's really making sure that someone can think strategically, align with that, but also get down into making sure on a daily basis they're readjusting. I would say that sometimes I think of these at times you've got to be a hunter-killer with good table manners, right? I mean, you have to have that instinct. And but not presented in that manner.
Right. And Berto, what about you?
I definitely agree with having thick skin. Right, we get 90% more no's than we do yeses. Right, sometimes, so it's definitely a tough business. So having the ability to not let that sway your drive and ambition is very important. I believe that someone in business development has to be extremely motivated. So additionally, extremely motivated and disciplined. Mm-hmm. In our industry, right, there's no office hours or you're working from 9 to 5. There's no set schedule. So this person has to have the ability to create their own schedule and be disciplined enough to stick to it daily, right? Because success doesn't happen overnight. Success, especially in business development, can happen over the course. Initially, you get the ball rolling maybe in 3 to 6 months, but the real success comes years down the line. So they have to be disciplined to be able to do that day in and day out, right? Someone who's consistent in making calls, because at the same time, you can't just be in the industry for years and have success. You have to be making calls in the correct manner. And as Clark mentioned, right, sometimes adjusting your pitch, catering to the correct clientele, and continuing to do so to be successful over time. Having a target audience is important. And I don't want to call it a sales script, but just so that they know what they're supposed to be saying to that specific type of audience. And one thing that I've heard in my career many times from different clients, different states completely is that I've been politely persistent, and that has gone a long way for me in my career. So I always try to tell my business development reps to be politely persistent. If they say, hey man, no thank you, I'm not good right now, maybe call me in 6 months, maybe they're just pushing you off and trying to brush you aside, but you better believe they're getting a call from me in 6 months because they said 6 months, and I'll just keep doing so, and I expect my sales reps to do so as well.
Good, very well put. I think it's all about persistence. And a lot of our clients say, oh, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to come off as, as someone that just bugs them all the time. Pleasurable or being persistent, pleasantly persistent is the way to do it until they say no, and then But and a lot of times I think people say, "Oh, you business development people, you're always out playing golf and eating lunch. What a great life." Well, they don't see all the other things that are involved with the calls and with the early getting in and entering all this information in the database. So it's like two jobs in one, actually. Rhonda, you want to touch base on a successful business development person?
Sure. Everything they all just said is perfect. But it's, business development, you don't go to college. There's no degree in business development. It's innately your skills, your personality. I mean, we're talking about what we look for when we're hiring. That's where I'm kind of focusing. I look for somebody who's curious. I think somebody mentioned that earlier. They've got to show that they're curious. They also have to show that they're a good listener and they really listen. I look for them to understand the business. Obviously, I'm in the construction industry. I look for somebody who definitely can show they're strategic. And I also look for somebody who knows how to I always call it make a touch point with somebody and the person doesn't even realize that you're doing it for business.
Yeah.
So for instance, COVID was perfect. I work with a lot of CEOs and hospitals and different things that I select randomly when I will reach out to them. Early into COVID, and I didn't know how it would work, I sent 2-line sentences. How are you? How's your family? Just wanted to check. I will tell you, I've got opportunities happening all over the place with the people like that I reached out to, and that's all I ever said. I did not go back to them again during the 3 months that we were in, or I just did it once. And so I look for somebody that understands that kind of, it's a gut feel. That's a gut feel to do it or not do it. It is totally, you use your instincts. But I also look for, I think I love Brene Brown, for anybody out there who does, and this team's already heard this, but I think vulnerability is critical. So I'm going to read her quote, that vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. Mm-hmm. We can never control the outcome, but we have to keep showing up. I often say I'm playing a chess game and I'll say, oh my God, I got to back my pawn up. I'm not, this isn't the right person. I've got to do this. But that's what I'm looking for. When we look for hiring BD people, curiosity, being able to live with vulnerability, that gut instinct, and an understanding, obviously the understanding of what we're selling, or for lack of a word, what our product is. But that's what it really is, that person and their instincts and goals and how they relate with other people.
Amen. Just the personal touch and the listening. Those are just two of the key features that you don't see enough of. I mean, Gary will preach this till he's blue in the face. You got to listen more than you talk, or you won't find out what your client is looking for or a potential client. Mm-hmm. So very well said. Berto, I'll start with you on this one. So if it doesn't work out with your business development person, what mistakes were made, and what mistakes did you make?
So if a sales rep, or a business development rep, if something didn't work out, it's tough for me, right? I just, there's many reasons. I don't want to sound rude, but I just don't think they put in the effort, right? This is always one of my initial mentors back in the day said that anyone can be successful in this industry if you know your numbers and you're consistent, right? And that was, for some of us, we have to call 10 people a day. Some of us have to call 50 people a day in order to get X amount of appointments. And if you get X amount of appointments, you're selling, 1, 2, or 3 of those deals. So if you know your numbers and you're persistent, right, and you put in that effort to do so consistently daily, you're going to find success. Some of us, it's like, as I mentioned before, it could take a few months. For some of us, it could take a few years. But eventually, if someone didn't work out, I believe they didn't put in that consistent effort. Or unfortunately, maybe they were and they just gave up a little bit too early, because business development takes time. So that's typically what I find. And there's definitely other reasons, but those are my top ones.
Great. Or maybe too much golf and too much lunch. I don't know.
Too much lunch.
Clark, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely what Alberto said. I think with any hire, it's really a lack of aligned expectations and a potentially a lack of communication or misunderstanding of how to connect and adjust during the process, and follow through. I mean, follow through and persistence is key. I blame myself as much for failure in hiring a team member that fails. And that's because we were either not ready for them on what they could do and their capacity, or we just did not slow down and hire the right person. And so, it does add to the saying of hire slow, fire fast. I try to work with our team, make sure we don't fire too fast, but it is important that sometimes we just do not have the right person in place to meet the expectations that we have. And that's a lesson on us.
Yeah, understood. Chris, do you want to touch on this one?
Sure. When it comes to attorneys in business development, meaning our employees, we track numbers on success pretty closely. It's sort of shocking what we track at the law firm, but we track how much business people bring in year to year, dollars. We compare it from year to year. We track how much an attorney bills and how much they collect on those bills. Those are two very different things, by the way. We track the volume of work they're responsible for, whether they brought it in or not. So whether they're keeping clients, that's sort of that number. We also monitor, particularly amongst younger staff, their dedication. Berto talked about dedication, but we monitor their dedication to business development. Are they writing client advisories? Are they participating in organizations and forums like this? Are they writing legal articles? Are they making efforts? Forget about the numbers. Are they making efforts to connect with potential clients? Because we know that it takes years. And I don't expect someone who's working for me to nail it in the first year. Sometimes people do. Hey, that's great. But we know that it takes years of developing those relationships. And so I don't expect to see numbers from younger staff in the beginning. I expect them, though, to be dedicated to building those relationships and to building their professional credibility. From time to time, we do hire outside business development professionals. So it's not entirely true that we don't. We have hired business development coaches for our attorneys to sit down, particularly with the partners, and coach them and be a professional nudge about their business development activities. We have hired other business development professionals who prepare sort of, upgrade our marketing and our online presence. And I think that when those people fail, number one, it's, as Clark said, they can only be as good as you're willing to give them the information they need and the support they need. A business development professional can't market your firm and help you develop business unless you're investing time and information in that person so they can do their job for you, right? You can't just hire them and say, go, and you have to sort of teach them what your business is, what you do, who your people are. So that's number one. Sometimes they fail because we haven't invested in them. And sometimes they fail because they don't know the legal industry. The person who is a business development professional for a law firm really has to understand how law firms work and how legal services work. If they don't, it generally doesn't work out very well.
Great. Thank you for that. It's nice to see that those same traits are applicable to our industry, what you're looking for as well. Rhonda, I know at Skanska you hire business development folks, and so if things don't work out, can you pinpoint why it might not have worked out on your part or Skanska's part, and or what mistakes that they might have made?
Yeah, it's, I think it comes into the marketing, sales, business development, three different roles that we sort of get mushed up in. for lack of a better word. And I think what happens is I thought somebody, I thought I saw a person that was, I did see somebody who's very, very creative, and I thought they're going to be able, they've got a great personality. They've got everything I was looking for that I mentioned earlier. And then have found that taking that leap of faith when you have to send a note or reach out to somebody that you think and you don't quite get it, that you don't know. That fear of, it's not somebody introducing you, it's you making yourself, figuring out a way to get in front of that person. And then they hit a wall, and it's just not in their makeup. They're just too uncomfortable. They'll grab another person in the company and say, can you ask this person to meet with me? Can you? And then it's like, it doesn't work. So, but that person is an excellent marketing person, can put together, the presentations and the proposals and the words and get everybody organized and can talk to people, but they're not that long-term business development and growing that relationship for the company. So that is where, and I usually blame myself for that because the personality traits are so close. I have to be careful to watch that when you're interviewing and you don't know.
Yeah, makes sense. And I know we touched on this question a little bit already, but if you want to elaborate, how do you measure success for this business development professional? And what metrics are you using to judge this? Berto?
So I'm interested to hear what Chris says actually on this one as well. So that'll be interesting because as he mentioned, it's not just how many deals, it's how they're making an effort. I thought that was really interesting. But for us, it's how many deals you're putting in the pipeline. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely deal fallout, right? Of course that happens. But a lot of the times it's not necessarily a business development rep's fault in our industry, right? An appraisal maybe didn't come in right. The borrower didn't qualify. There was a contract dispute and the deal just died, right? It didn't close. And I try to make sure my reps don't focus on that too much. I mean, of course, we want it to close. We'll make sure that it's something that hasn't happened on our end, but I don't want them to get down on themselves because something didn't close, because it's not always their fault. So I'm always focused on making sure they are putting deals in the pipeline. You feed that pipeline as much as possible. So the initial reps, we're hoping they put in 5 deals a month. A few months later, they're putting 10 deals a month. And in my industry, if you're putting in 20 new deals a month, I think you're definitely on the right track. So I have them focus on putting in as many deals as possible, and ultimately they could make a great living, of course. And we break it down, as I mentioned, in deals per month. And we do want to focus on what they're closing. Of course, that's how they make a living. But I think if you're feeding the machine, ultimately the machine will process it, and they'll be successful.
All right, Rhonda, do you agree with that? Are we bringing up the whole thing about transactional versus long-term?
Yeah, I was chuckling. It's just a different industry, right? Mine's about people and developing the relationships. Even though it's construction, it's really touchy-feely. And so it's interesting. For me, this is the way I work is you hear the thing, die by a million little cuts. Well, we win. Every little thing that happens is a win. We're writing it up on a board, meaning you wrote to somebody, you reached out, you got a meeting set up with them. Win. That's not a win for the company yet. That's a win for that BD person. That's a win for our team because we're now starting to get to know that client. So we celebrate every little win along the way, and they're measured on that. And when it's like it's a success for them, so everybody gets motivated to do more and they're celebrated. So from our standpoint, because we're building the relationship, which turns, it's not a transactional thing. It's like by the time that we're in front of a hospital for a $500 million project, everybody sitting in the other side of that table when we're doing an interview knows all of my people, knows who they are, might know their kids. I mean, just really have built over time those relationships. But it starts with one little win, like they answered my phone call, or I've got a lunch set up, or I'm playing golf. It's like win, win, win. Because without that, you're working so hard, and everybody's said here several times, business development is it can be 5 or 6 years. In my experience, I've had 5 or 6 years before I finally got an opportunity. I shouldn't say got an opportunity, but won a project with a client. So it's definitely different. There's no quota. There's no. It really is about relationship building and celebrating those wins for those people. And so that's how they're measured. They don't, I would never expect a new person. And if they win something their first year, I would celebrate them beyond belief. But I never would anticipate that. It takes time. And with the right people, you want to invest that time. And celebrating them really helps. So it's definitely a different model. They're both right, depending on the industry. But that's how I like to look at it.
That's great. Chris, is there a different perspective on the legal side?
If we're talking about metrics,
yes,
metrics for success. Rhonda's correct. As I say, in our younger employees, we're not tracking numbers as much as we're tracking effort. Are you helping to write responses to RFPs from potential clients? Are you helping us write client advisories, which go out to our clients and potential clients? Are you, joining bar associations and other professional organizations and really engaging with those organizations? It's not a numerical way to track people, but I can tell you at our annual reviews, those things are talked about. And what are you doing to help us build our business and our brand?
Yeah.
As you get to be more senior, as I said before, we really track numbers and we really compare year to year. It sounds scarier than it actually is because different people have different skill sets, and there are people who generate $1 million a year in business, $500,000 a year in business, $3 million a year in business. They all have their place, but we're looking at trends year to year. What are you helping to originate? And if you're not bringing in business, if that's not your skill, are you helping to keep business? Are you helping to keep the clients that you're responsible for here at the firm? Because we track the volume of business that you're responsible for year to year as well. And there are people who that's their skill. Their skill is not going out and finding relationships and clients. Their skill is keeping clients at the firm and building trust with those clients.
Good point. Hey, Clark is owner of Pacific Program Management. Tell us about what you're measuring for success.
Oh man, we've tried to measure a variety of different things. It's a bit of trial and error. We don't have over 100 years like Chris has, under his firm's belt, or even ScanScat with Rhonda. But it is about the indicators. Are people putting in the effort on a daily basis, whether or not they're working with their existing clients and kindling and stoking that relationship for the future, or they're out in the community. I think it's important that our teams represent themselves and grow as professionals in the community, which then yields better relationships for us as a firm. I will say that we have moved more towards showing people how their daily activities or weekly activities or monthly activities do build up to the success of the company. So even at the frontline individuals, where they are working with their clients and doing a great job of maturing the future of that relationship, really looking at what other relationships do they have? How are they looking at the broader picture, the broader strategy, and giving them that focus? So sourcing leads is an important part of our business, and a couple here and a couple there add up into the funnel. And then at the end of the day, it is getting to that proposal. I mean, we, unlike construction in a lot of ways, we don't hear about deals until they're right there, right? We don't see them coming. Sometimes they pop out of nowhere. Hopefully our relationships have developed that insight further upstream, but it is important that we get to the proposal level and then we get to that contract. So if you were looking at 3 metrics, sourcing leads, proposals, and wins. But it is as much about the development of the individual and being part of the community that builds those relationships. And that is the daily activity.
Good. Very well said. Chris, I know you have an interesting story about a successful example of business development achievement. You want to share that with us?
Is that the one I shared with you anecdotally?
Yeah.
Well, look, I develop client relationships in all sorts of ways, and some of them are predictable ways, like former college buddies or people I meet at bar association events. I mean, it really runs the gamut about where these relationships get established. There must be 20 or 30 different ways. But the funniest way was on a flight back from Madrid about 15 years ago. I was single. I was enjoying cocktails on the plane, and there happened to be someone seated next to me. And I just started talking to him and chatting with him, probably annoying him. He was a Spaniard on his way back from New York, from Madrid to New York to move in with his girlfriend and live, his American girlfriend, and live in New York City. And it must have been, as I said goodbye to him after the flight was over, and it must have been about a year later that I was in a Spanish class trying to learn Spanish because my Spanish was terrible. And there was a woman in the class, and she started talking about her story and why she was taking Spanish class. And she said she wanted to be able to communicate with her fiance's family in Spain. And she didn't say very much. And I knew that that was his girlfriend. And I jumped up and I said to her, "I know your fiance." And she looked horrified because she had no idea what I was talking about. But sure enough, it's a small world, guys. And it was her fiance. And we all became really good friends over years. But don't you think she's an executive at Marcal, the paper company? And they have all sorts of environmental needs at Marcal. And eventually she started calling me about work. So, man, I mean, you know, I never would have expected my seatmate on a plane 15 years ago to be a source of business, but there you go.
I love it. Rhonda, do you have something you want to share with us on that?
Yeah. I that happens to me, I swear to God, every day. I've just been around a long time, but I'm always like, how did that just happen? I've gotten opportunities from being on a plane and meeting somebody on a train. At one of those like clothing shows that women go to online or something, and it's like, oh my God, that's the CEO of the hospital I need to know. It's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. You know, and that's back to what I said. You got to be brave enough to say, oh my gosh, I've been trying to get to know you. Hello, what are you going to buy? You know, I believe that that's the universe. If you're open. And that's that curiosity that just comes. Yeah. It just comes. It's amazing.
That's great. Let's move on.
And fun.
Yeah, Clark or Berto, anything to add to that before we move on?
I think you're absolutely right. I think, you know, our clients are people too, and they're out in the community. They're having fun. They're enjoying life, and you know, connecting with people indirectly or inadvertently in a situation where it has nothing to do with business. I remember I was sitting at a community group and an event, and I was scraping earth with a person next to me. Didn't really know the individual. We were just plowing a new garden for a community organization, and turned out to be a future client. Right? I mean, we just got to know each other over that 8 hours, breaking our backs, a little bit of follow up, and it was just that connection that you make. Right, that could last a while and continue to foster this. Much more important than the business, right? The business comes with that eventually, maybe, but maybe not. It's not. It will happen if it happens, but it's a matter of that's where the best relationships typically come from. Is those indirect, and that's why it's so important to get our teams out into the communities.
Very well said.
Yeah, it's true.
Nice. And yeah, you had mentioned anything to add. So I also, I was thinking of a group of clients, relationships that I guess that I've built recently. Well, I guess it took many years, right? Because it's about obviously connecting, developing relationships, but also sometimes working through that relationships to furthering connections within their company, within their world. And I remember going to a networking event, meeting this lender who we developed a great relationship. I still know him very well to this day. We talk all the time. And he introduced me to one of his communal sales reps, who introduced me to a manager, an outside sales manager, who introduced me to an inside sales manager, who introduced me to I think another loan officer, who eventually introduced me to this law firm. And that law firm to this day has been one of my biggest clients, sending us, I think, just about all, from what they tell me, 100% of their business. And what's good is that since it went vertical through these relationships, they every once in a while one mentions my name, and it sort of just reminds them of us and our business, and sort of further strengthen that relationship.
Awesome. Just could you tell me what a business development professional, what ways can a business development professional add value to a client? Clark, you want to start on that one?
Honestly, just be honest with them. Be solutions oriented. It may not be your firm that provides the end solution, but it's understanding, listening, like Rhonda had said before. It's very important, and really getting down to the core of what their challenge is. Once you get to that point, of course, and then finding some recommendations for solutions for them. And it'd be nice if we worked with them, but some of the best clients that have come back around after that first engagement was about giving them some advice that they went a different direction, or maybe paused altogether. And so, I think that is to me that is a success in that aspect of things. So
good, thank you, Clark. And Berto, you want to add that to that?
Sorry, Guy, could you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. Just what ways can business development professionals add value for a client?
Add value to a client. Well, I guess some things that they expect of us, and I guess ways that we can add value is, as Clark mentioned, touch on a few of them, and that's just always doing what you say you're going to do, right? There are a lot, and it's surprising to know how many people don't follow through on that, right? You tell a client, hey, this will be done in X amount of days, or yes, we'll get this done, yes, we'll get this ordered, or yes, I'll introduce you to this person or call you back, whatever it might be. There's so little follow through, and I believe that that's just hurtful to your actual brand and your business. So just being consistent in doing what you say you're going to do, so that the client becomes, so that they know they can rely and depend on you, I think is very important.
This future of business development. What will the new world bring for BD hiring, business development hiring, with COVID and post-COVID, and just how is it going to change the landscape for business development folks? Rhonda?
Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it? It is. I think we've learned how to do things differently through COVID. I think that I really believe that there's an advantage for business development and a really more important space for us right now. As people are starting to come out, I've started to have lunches out, and it's literally giddish. It's like everybody's so excited. Nobody is turning down an offer for lunch or breakfast right now. I haven't had anybody. And a lot of us have the vaccine, but it's just been, it's a different world. And for business development, what strengthens is we're sitting there. We've all been through COVID together. We have all experienced the exact same thing. We all have post-traumatic stress over this. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's had a loss. And so it's not about the business in these conversations, these first few meetings. It's about life. It's about, and all that does is bond you closer with the people and that you're talking to. It bonds you closer, and everybody's been kind of normalized to the same level. It doesn't matter what your title is. We all have gone through this together. And I see it as a great advantage to the bonds you had are going to get tighter, and the new people you meet you're going to grow bonds quicker, because we've all had similar experiences in this last year. I think it sounds crazy, but it is somewhat of a gift. I have had such enlightened and wonderful conversations, and And people say, thank you for listening. Just thank you for listening. And these are clients, right? Am I going to get some opportunities from my clients? Yeah, but I was genuine in that too. You have to be I mean, I was loving it. I thank that person. So I think we're going to see it differently. I think it's going to, I think right now a lot of industries are trying to figure out, how do I get back on my feet financially? What does it look like? What kind of, you look at the commercial, buildings and that are sitting there and not necessarily going to be filled up again. There's a lot of unknowing. And so having that kind of conversation, but I believe business development is going to have more of a value moving forward, because we've all been normalized that we're just people. No matter what industry it is, we're just people. And when you share that common thing we've been through, it's a connection that is really strong.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like your outlook, and you hit the nail on the head. It's just all about being genuine and again, listening. And Berto, what about you? What do you think the future of business development looks like?
Well, Rhonda mentioned something. I think she nailed it on the head, saying that you develop relationships through shared experiences, and we've all been through the same experience. So it's been a great way to just easily connect, right? We've all been through this. We all have our own stories, and it's definitely strengthened a lot of relationships that I've had with existing clients. But moving forward, hopefully things will get back to normal in throughout most of the country. But I think a lot of these things are going to still be done virtually and socially. So I think the future of business development is going to be networking, communicating online through social media platforms a lot more, whether it's Zoom calls, maybe TikTok, I don't know. I'm not on it that much. That's a generation underneath me. But Instagram has been a great tool for me. I actually hired a social media company, I would say maybe three or 4 months in to COVID, and they did a fantastic job of featuring highlights of our company, of myself. I also own a continuing education school, which funnels business and leads into our title insurance platform. And I think it's been an incredible way to capture an audience that I normally would not have attracted, and to also just highlight some personal things, right? Sometimes you see companies only focusing on business on their website or on whatever, on their Facebook page. But their suggestion was actually to be more personable, and I was like, hey, I'm fine with that. I very much enjoy being 100% myself and sharing pictures of all the weird, fun, traveling, food things that me and my wife and friends might do, and it allows people to connect virtually, because you're not doing so face to face, and it's a great way to stay top of mind as well when transactions are happening. And we've actually personally have gained quite a few new clients and have closed multiple deals with them throughout the year. And these clients I've never met face-to-face in person just yet. So I think the future of business development may not be solely online via social media platforms, but I think it's going to weigh in pretty heavily.
Good point. Chris, what do you think the future is for law firms in the business development world?
Yeah, I think Rhonda and Berto were expressing slightly two different views. I think it's a two-track future. In other words, I think Rhonda's correct. I think people are going to jump at the chance to get back in person, to lunch, to professional networking events. I'm ready. You invite me out to lunch, I'm there, Rhonda.
All right, I'll call you.
But at the same time, the online is here to stay, and professionals that can help law firms, stodgy, old-fashioned law firms like mine, figure out how to beef up their online presence are going to be very useful to us. How are we going to do online continuing legal education programs that we invite our clients to give some value back to our clients and allow them to do these things online? Enhancing our online presence on LinkedIn, our website, enhancing our marketing materials that are going out to clients through email or social media. All these things that we kind of treated as afterthoughts before, we have to really focus on now to beef up our game. At the same time as jumping back into the in-person events as they come back online. So I think it's a two-track approach, and we've got to do both well now.
Can I jump in? Because I want to add to that. Because you're right, Chris, because what we're doing for our other track is we're doing thought leadership. So I've just put together a panel on behavioral health, which is a big issue coming forward. We don't have enough beds. We don't have any money, on and on. Mm-hmm. I put a panel together that is going to be the first week in May. If everybody goes to my link, they can find out about it. But I'm setting us up as thought leaders because we can't get out to see as many people. We know that. So we want people to see that Skanska has a huge amount of understanding and work in the behavioral world. And so I've got a whole group from different organizations, 2 or 3 architects talking about the differences. But again, I'm calling it thought leadership. So it's the same idea, the 2 tracks. I totally agree. And that's all I can think of to do on social media, is to do that kind of thought leadership.
Yep, and provide that value to clients or prospective clients. I think there's also a third part, which is, this is a little vague, but social equity is a tremendous topic in the United States. It's really important. Corporations are all thinking about it. Our municipal and government clients are all thinking about it. And it starts to seep into the work we do as lawyers. And so being sort of sensitive to that conversation is going to be really, really important for business development professionals. How are you going to help your clients with their civic engagement and in taking positions on social equity issues that are important? For example, after the summer of protests with regard to police violence and such, most law firms and big companies put out statements about social equity in the United States. And so if you're a business development professional, how are you going to help your clients navigate that, to take an important position on what's right without alienating employees and clients at the same time?
Good point.
Yep.
Very good point.
Absolutely right.
And Clark, just anything to add on the future of business development with COVID?
Yeah, I think. Sorry about looks like my family's home. The dog's barking. I think it's, I think all very good points. There's a lot of silver linings in this. Besides the fact that it's COVID, it does remind me a bit of our last financial crisis back in 2008 and 2009, where clients were in this fight, flight, or freeze type of mentality. And so really understanding where they are, and so you can address their concerns, really connecting with them on a personal level is very important. They're going to come out when they're ready, right? They're going to transition when they're ready, and you can't push that. You have to understand that, even our more traditional clients that we're in the office 5 days a week have now found that actually their performance was as good, maybe not as connected, but as good when they were remote. And so it's transitioning them to that. What is that right balance of working anywhere together? And how do you help them through that? And so there is a lot of opportunities. And I think a lot of, everybody's going through it. So it's not just you're going through the transition of your new space based off of a cycle in your lease term or what have you. Everybody's kind of in this. So I see actually from a business development perspective, a pretty significant surge of energy that's going to happen over the next year or so plus, where they're going to need some guidance and love, frankly, through what their next version of space is to work efficiently and effectively for their business and with their culture of employees.
Thank you for that, Clark. We're going to wrap up this part, and we've got a few questions we want to get to real quick. And you don't each have to answer these, but if you feel strongly about answering these, please do. And I think we touched a little on this earlier. I think, Berta, you were talking about this, but how do you determine the line between persistent and aggressive?
How do you, was that specifically for me?
No, this is no one's telling you anything.
Like it was targeted.
No, if anyone wants to touch on that, please do.
I mean, I think being aggressive, for example, would be, let's just say it's an email, right? Just because we write a million of those nowadays, especially during COVID. It's a lot of things have been done online, of course. I think being aggressive is just constantly badgering someone, whether they want to be bothered or not, and not having any or not having any value to add when you do that follow-up, right? So I mentioned earlier that about being politely persistent and just following up when you say you were going to. I think it's you can find a way of adding some value to that client, whether you're sending them an important article, or like I said, if you follow them on LinkedIn or Instagram, or you follow their Facebook page, you know what they've recently, maybe a transaction they've recently done or something they've recently shared. If you're following up in a polite way and referencing that, right, you can do it in an easy way where it seems non-threatening, right? It's more of a soft, just touching base. So that's how I always found my way of being, I guess, not aggressive and being polite.
Okay. Anybody else want to touch on that before we move on?
You know, I think when you're regurgitating information to a client, you're really pushing hard. And so there's a natural rhythm of relationship building that something's going to happen one day and it's going to pop up and go, you know, I think Berto would like to hear this or see this. And that's a natural interaction, like you'd be reaching out to a friend and providing that value. And so, but when you're kicking the same stuff to Berto over and over because you're trying to force a deal, it becomes very evident very fast.
Let's do one more question, and I think everyone's ready to hop over to a little networking portion. How do you pass off opportunities from business development to sales? Anybody?
I guess in my industry specifically, as we mentioned, the relationships happen very much over time. You connect with someone through an email introduction. You end up scheduling a coffee. Nothing happens yet. You schedule a lunch. Nothing happens yet. You ping them on social media, whatever it might be, because there's no transaction. Once you hear, hey, there's a transaction happening, now I have to transition into, hey, it's time to sell, without selling, of course, right? Now you can sort of guide them, hey, this is how you get us involved for title. This is the value that we can add on this transaction. And for us, at least, that's the time to transition from business development to sales, is when the opportunity strikes. You got to make a move, because, you know, as all of us here know, you're not going to get the sale if you don't ask. So you have to ask at some point.
Yeah, I've heard a lot.
I think for us,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, you won't separate. I mean, while it's part of the process, everybody has to understand that balance, right, between developing a relationship and knowing when to close a deal. And because what Berto just said is that, you know, there's no margin, no mission. We can't just build relationships. We have to develop business and sell the business at some point. So, you know, it is, we don't separate the two within ours. It is about developing relationships, and then and finding those opportunities gracefully, right, to bring it to closure.
Good point. So let's wrap it up. Guys, you've been outstanding. Thank you for the insight and your perspective. I know I didn't get to all the questions, but I know also that people like to do a little networking. I hope you all stick around and do some networking. I'm sure some of the people in the group will have some questions specifically for you. I also wanted to remind everyone tonight that we do have a golf outing coming up, speaking of golf, May 3rd, and I'm pretty sure it's almost sold out. So if you're interested, you might see Joe Sofaro or Joey Morgan on the call and find out some more information. But I'm going to bring Jimmy back up. Jimmy's going to tell us how to navigate through the networking portion of it and tell us how long we have, either 7 or 7:30. So again, thank you everyone for your time. And yes, thank you guys. Jimmy, come up.
Thank you so much.
And if you would all just turn off your mics and cameras, and we'll bring Jimmy up.
All right. So I hope you guys got a lot of great value out of that. That was absolutely tremendous. I know I got a lot of great value. So I thank all the panelists. Thank Guy, for moderating. Like I said, there are quite a few questions, so feel free to, we're going to move you back on into the conversation mode section so you can ask the question directly to our panelists if they're here, and also you can discuss these questions among yourselves and continue to build your relationships and your knowledge and your education as well. As Guy also mentioned, we do have an upcoming golf outing. I believe I heard the number, we're already at over 100 golfers. So that's a lot of networking. So definitely go and get you a ticket. Ooh, that was loud. And we'll see you there. So we're going to move everybody over, and we may come back at the end with a few final remarks from our president, but let's do some networking and do what we do best, build relationships. So we'll see you guys on the floor.
All right.